Hey guys, welcome back! Today, as I mentioned last episode, I want to run a vault and just talk through what I'm doing, the decisions I'm making, and how I'm approaching the vault. It's the sort of thing I'm always thinking about when running these vaults, but I don't really tend to verbalize them, so I think this should be quite interesting. But before we head into the vault, last episode I also mentioned wanting to make a new sickle, as we unfortunately lost our 100% trap disarm last time, and we can also definitely afford to make something better than our current one. So, I definitely want to use a sickle because that is definitely my preferred tool, and okay, unfortunately we can't afford to make a prismatic sickle because that needs a frankly ridiculous amount of legendary gems, but I think we should be able to make the echoing sickle, which will still give us plenty of space to work with. So let's make the echoing sickle, and yes, 350 capacity. That means we can add like 35 joules to this. Okay, that is a lot of space. Let's see what we can do with it. And after searching through an awful lot of joules, I think this is what I'm going to go for. So we have Gilded Affinity, of course, over 100 mining speed, 38% item quantity, 1.61 reach, over 6,000 durability, almost 40% item rarity, over 100% trap disarm, coin affinity, living affinity, soulbound, wooden affinity, and ornate affinity. Now, we don't usually have wooden affinity on this tool, but I figure it would be nice for wooden chests to get the same bonuses as the rest of our chests, because we can still just use this one inside the vault to break random blocks, but if we try and use this to break wooden chests, they will break a lot faster and they will also get a lot of benefits. And also, keep in mind, our current tool has like 20 mining speed, 22% item quantity, and 54% trap disarm. We are stepping up in so many areas. It is going to be amazing. And our wooden chests and strong boxes, I can't wait to see how fast they mine with over 100 mining speed, because our wooden chests actually break relatively fast and they only have 55 mining speed at the moment. And I think we're out of capacity and we've used an awful lot of our legendaries. Let's just go for it. Oh boy, and now before we do anything else, we need to enchant this thing. We'll have a little bit of efficiency and some unbreaking, and I don't think we really need Fortune or Silk Touch, but I'll put Silk Touch on it anyway. Why not? And while I cannot wait to try this out in the vault today, I completely forgot to open the wild booster pack that we got last episode, so let's quickly open that up. Ooh, green, blue, or blue? Let's go for blue. And now, I just can't wait any longer, so let's make ourselves a crystal. Ooh, mycelium. Luckily, we had everything we needed to craft it, because I really didn't want to have to go and find a mushroom biome. And I think I'm going to leave this as a random vault, because that way I'm reacting on the fly, which makes it all a little more fun. Every vault objective obviously needs to be approached slightly differently, and I'll try and remember to talk through some of the differences, but our main focus is inevitably going to be on whatever objective we get, so I guess let's see what the vault gods give us. What have we got? Ooh, a nice elixir vault. Okay, the way to approach this is relatively simple, and I'm sure this has actually been quite obvious from the various times I've run elixir, which is try and do everything at least once, and then find what gives you the best roll and try and do that over and over again. Obviously, that can sometimes be quite difficult because you might not be able to find the thing, especially if it's like living chests give you the best rolls, because sometimes you just can't find any living chests, but the way to approach it is definitely to just try and find as many things as you can at the start, and then try and remember what actually gives you good rolls, because that sometimes it can be really hard to remember. But I guess we don't really have any other foreplanning when it comes to an elixir, so let's get going and see what we can find. So one thing that I always say to people when they ask me for tips is to mark your way in the vault. Now, this is less important when you've got a vault compass, which always points you back towards home, but I still find myself doing it because it's so much easier, I find, to be able to just like spin around the room and see where the various... Ooh, hello. To see where the various things are, rather than have to like worry about checking my compass. I just like being able to see where my block is, and then I use that to navigate myself. I find it quite a bit easier, so that is definitely a top tip. And that was a nice sword, thank you very much. Do you have... Ooh, wooden chests have some elixir. Do you have more of them? So it looks like those crabs are pretty good, and wooden chests, while they don't give much, they are also just super common, so I tend to find I will go for them anyway, just because you'll find a lot of them, and a little bit of something a lot of the time can sometimes go a very, very long way. But I am going to chase this crab down, because they gave quite a decent amount of elixir. So let's also just check all around here. Hello guys, you're going to also give me some nice elixir. Thank you, thank you. Perfect. Okay, so what else did the comment ask about? Oh man, you don't have any elixir. It's so sad when the horde mobs don't give you any elixir. And that was a surprisingly high dash. Okay, let us keep going. And I think one of the other things that was asked about in the comment that I was basing this episode on, they asked about how do you know when to just sort of go searching for omega rooms and when to just actually just run every room. And I will say that I think one of my main takeaways from this is to let you know that you really don't have to run and approach the vault like I do, because chances are you probably aren't recording and showing people every single vault you run. Because when they said about, oh, should I just run and look for, or what, should I just run and look for omega rooms? My first thought was, well, that would make a really boring video. But obviously, if you're not recording a video, you can 100% do that. You can just run and look for omega rooms, but I tend to find that omega rooms, they aren't super common, and it does mean that you might get a bit disappointed and come out of the vault with basically nothing if you just happen to not find an omega room that you're looking for. And those coins were very good for elixir. So I think if you're going to run into that sort of problem, I do think playing the individual rooms is definitely worthwhile. And I've just realised I don't think I was using my new tool to mine those wooden chests, because I'm smart. Okay, next time I need to not muscle memory that. I want to try and make sure I actually use my new tool on these. I'm going to use my new tool, I promise. So yeah, if you just feel like running and finding an omega room, you most definitely can, and those broke so fast. Jesus Christ. So yeah, I guess when you watch me playing this vault, you might think, oh, that's how you should play, and the thing is, it's one way to play. There's definitely not the only way that you can play these vaults. You can do whatever you want. There's hugely different play styles, and what works for you is going to be different than what works for other people. You know, some people play pacifist, and they don't even attack any of the mobs. And that's obviously not at all my playstyle, but you might find that that works for you. So definitely play the vault your own way and just see what you fancy doing. But I do think that if you spend your whole time running and looking for omega rooms, you might end up being a bit disappointed sometimes, which might just sort of make things feel a little bit lackluster. Whereas if you can make it so that you find the joy in exploring all of the smaller rooms, the omega rooms feel like such a huge thing when you find them. I mean, you've seen me react to finding omega rooms, and every time I'm just so happy about it that, I mean, I just like that personally. But it's definitely a valid way to run and look for Omega rooms, it's just not how I tend to run things. So, that's definitely one thing to keep in mind. What else? Sorry, I'm really trying to stay on topic, but also my brain is trying to run a vault at the same time, and it turns out that's actually a little bit difficult sometimes. Hello. This elixir... we really could do with finding some better rolls. I don't think anything in here is giving us amazing rolls, so we might struggle to complete this, but that's Laser's problem. And that's also not the main goal of this vault. The main goal of this vault is to talk to you guys about how I play Vault Hunters. Which actually, I guess, relatively neatly brings me on to one of the other things I wanted to talk about, which is when to stick with the objective, and I think that is really personal because, you know, sometimes I've gone into vaults and I've seen that I need like 3 creeper eyes for a scav, and I've just immediately gone, I can't do that. But you know, maybe you can. So I think over time you do get a little bit of a feel for what is a completable objective to you. And I think once you've got that, it's one of those things to, you know, just really focus, and if you think something's not completable, then don't worry about completing it and do something else. And also, if you've got an objective of your own, so let's say you came into a vault and you really just wanted to look for, like, I don't know, all rooms because you really need Benny, or you really need, you know, knowledge essence because you want to make some more knowledge stars and unlock a mod. It's one of those things where sometimes what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to focus on the objective that you've decided you have rather than the objective that the vault gives you. And that's absolutely fine. Like, if you really want something from the vault, you should just ignore whatever else there is. And I mean, if you happen to complete it in the same time, so if you have an elixir and you're looking for ores and your ore rooms happen to give a bunch of elixir, like, that's great. Then you just happen to complete it at the same time. But I think it is important to sort of prioritize the objective that you've gone into the vault with, because, you know, otherwise you're just going to come out of it and you might complete a vault, but if you don't complete the vault and you don't focus on your own objective, you're just going to feel a bit sad about what's happened. I've definitely done that in the past, where I've been completely distracted by some form of objective that comes up, and then I didn't complete it, and I also didn't get what I wanted, and I sort of went, oh, why did I do that? I should have just focused on what I was trying to do. So I think in terms of when to know if the objective is actually completable, that's definitely something that you'll get a feel of in time. And also sometimes you'll get it wrong. I have been in plenty of vaults that I thought were completable and did not complete them. And I've also been inside vaults that I thought I would never complete, and then I did it somehow. So you will always be taken by surprise, but there is a certain amount of knowing from yourself. And also definitely using the timer compared with your objective. So we have 16 minutes left and we are not very far with this elixir. So I'd currently say that unless I now find an ore room and ores give a bunch of elixir, and then I know I can go look for that. If that doesn't happen, I'm probably thinking that this vault isn't going to be completed. And once you've decided that, you can sort of do whatever you fancy, because you've no longer worrying about if you can complete it, you're just worrying about finding loot or whatever else it is you want to focus on. You know, maybe you want to just kill a bunch of mobs because you want soul shards, or you want the XP, and that's absolutely fine. You can just spend your time doing that, and you don't have to worry about everything else. And why is there a baby when I'm trying to talk? Ooh, also, by the way, just to be clear, I have no idea if I'm making any sense. So, apologies in advance if I'm talking absolute nonsense while doing this. But hopefully there's at least some vaguely interesting things that come out of this. Or I won't find out until I'm editing, and you won't find out until you're watching. So, hopefully something in here is half decent. But yes. So definitely, I guess so far what I've been trying to say is play the vaults your own way and you'll sort of get to know when an objective is completable or not. And it's really up to you, because also sometimes you go into a vault and you're not really worried about completing the objective, and you might not even have your own secret objective. You might just be like, I just really want to run and kill a bunch of mobs and just sort of see what happens. I have gone into vaults so many times with that outlook, and it's a great outlook to have because it means that no matter what, you're kind of not going to be disappointed with the vault, which is always a nice feeling. So definitely do that, play however works best for you. And there's a dungeon down there. I do love a dungeon, but it is piglins. We'll come back. We will see... Oh, that's an ashroom for our bounty. That's wonderful. That's the other thing I get to mention, that you might go into a vault where instead of having the objective as your objective, you have a bounty as an objective. So with that, it's sort of the same thing of if you can, and that's really the thing you want to focus on, then just pretty much ignore everything else. Now, what are you? Impossible? Yeah, no, I'm not doing impossible piglins right now. Not while I'm trying to make vague sense to the people. Okay. Let's keep moving. I guess we should be able to go up in here. So let's explore this room. Hello. So yes, if you've got your own objective, try and stick to that, because that way you probably won't be disappointed unless you just don't find any of the things that you're looking for. But normally you'll at least find something, so that can be very good. And yeah, sometimes you'll want to run for an Omega room, and other times you really won't, and that's fine. And yeah, definitely don't feel like you've got to play like I do. Play like you want to. That's definitely, if there's one thing that I want to hopefully make sense from this, it's that. It's that idea that you should definitely play how you'd prefer. I guess in terms of some of the other objectives, obviously we've talked a bit about the elixir. When it comes to something like braziers, that's normally pretty simple because you'll always be able to find enough braziers because it normally asks for like 5, and as long as you explore like 5 rooms, then you'll be absolutely golden. So with that, I guess my normal thing is I have a look at all of the rooms I go into and try and find the brazier and see if I think the positive outweighs the negative. And if it does, obviously I will take it then and there. But if it doesn't, then what I normally do is on the way back, when I'm trying to get out of the vault, I will spend my time just clicking on any brazier and really hoping that I don't encounter any mobs or whatever the negative modifier is. So those are generally kind of, I wouldn't completely say autocomplete, but they're pretty simple to complete and you shouldn't really have too many problems. So I wouldn't worry too much, but yeah, if you really find that you don't like the modifiers, I just click them all when I'm running home, which I really do think can sometimes be quite a running strategy. And then for something like Guardians, I definitely find that I don't like running and trying to find them. Obviously, if your main objective for the vault is to complete the vault, then definitely just go running around, look in every room, see if you can find the obelisks. But if you're just kind of there for the interest, I really tend to find that I mean, as you've seen many times, I just spend my time seeing if the obelisks happen to appear in front of me, because otherwise I feel like it gets a little bit boring if I'm just running around the rooms and not really doing anything inside of them. And we've just reached the end of the vault, so I guess we'll loot this room and then turn around. I will also say, if I don't find the end of the vault, which I quite often don't, then I normally turn around at around the 9-10 minute mark, so we're actually turning around at about the point I would have anyway. And I tend to turn around at that point because I feel like I've got enough time that I can definitely run all the way back and still explore some interesting rooms. And if I have to skip some rooms along the way because I get distracted in one of the first ones, it's normally fine because you know, I've still got like 8 minutes or 7 minutes, and if you're doing nothing but running, I can definitely make my way back in that time. So that tends to be when I actually decide to turn around, but obviously if you hit the end of the vault, just turn straight back. And I always just go one to the side and then head back, because it means I stay very, very close to the portal room, so I don't have to worry about being too far away when I'm out of time, because, you know, whether you think you're going to complete the objective or not, there's always a chance that you're going to run into some troubles, and then you're going to need that time to be able to actually get out and use the portal. So unless you've already completed the objective, I tend to avoid running too far away from the portal. If you've already completed, then you're fine, but if you haven't, I tend to stay pretty close where I know how far away I am. And there is a champion. Wonderful. Yes, so Guardians, you can just go running for the obelisks. That's the best way to actually complete that vault, but I quite often don't actually attempt to focus too much on completing the vault, because I find it a little bit boring. But that's just me. If you like running around and looking for the obelisks, that's absolutely fine. So I guess then we have scabs. So scabs are quite interesting in that you'll normally know relatively early on, like as soon as you see what it's asking for, you'll have a pretty decent idea of if you think it's doable. Now, you might definitely get it wrong sometimes. I most definitely have gotten that wrong on multiple occasions. But if you automatically look at the objective and you're like, that's not going to happen, you don't have to worry about it. You just go about your day, and normally partway through I just check to see if I've found some of the things I need on the off chance, and then if I have, I can then switch my focus. But otherwise, I'll just stay focused on whatever it is I'm trying to do instead, and not really worry about the scav. And once again, you really just want to really clock what it is that you need from the scav, and then focus on trying to find that. So if it's like you need a skeleton skull from the ores, you just want to run and try and find ore rooms as best you can. And ore rooms, they are definitely... It's really hard. I was trying to think how to describe finding ore rooms, and honestly, for a lot of the ore rooms, it's just something that you learn, which I know is not a helpful statement, because you do hear that, you know, ore rooms never have any liquid in them, which is true, so that can be helpful, but sometimes you'll still find that you're in a room that's not an ore room. But you will definitely, with time, you'll learn what an ore room looks like, so you know when to stop, or if you're not looking for ores, you know to just carry on. So that's definitely something that you kind of learn. But yeah, the base thing... Oh, that was another ashium. Thank you very much. The base thing is, if it's got water, it's definitely not an ore room. So maybe if you're unsure, just check. If you're looking for ore rooms, if you can see no water, have a quick look around, see if you can see any chests anywhere. And if there's no chests, but there's some ores, you're definitely in an ore room. So that can also be quite helpful. So yeah, the scavs, it's hard. It's definitely, if you see that you need like 2 or 3 omega items, I normally just think, well, if I happen to find them, I happen to find them, but I'm not going to spend my whole time focusing on it. And also, sometimes you'll tell yourself not to focus on something, and then you will anyway. You'll find yourself subconsciously just going for those things over everything else because your brain knows that it needs it for the objective, and that's fine. Like, don't worry, it's not going to be a waste of a vault or anything because you're still looting and you're still doing stuff, so I wouldn't worry too much. Back here, thank you. I wouldn't worry too much if you find yourself accidentally like focusing on an objective that you planned on ignoring, because it's not the end of the world, so don't worry about that. And then when it comes to bingo vaults, oh man, bingo vaults, I still haven't fully worked them out. Obviously, you've seen that I normally in the start room, the start room, by the way, is fantastic. If you want to try and work out what your strategy is going to be, do it in the start room before you leave, because the time is paused, so you don't have to worry about wasting time while you decide what you want to do. So I normally open up the bingo tab and I just see if I can find a line that looks pretty completable. Sometimes you'll find that there's actually multiple, or sometimes you'll find that there isn't really any, but normally I just try and find whatever I think is the most completable line, and then I keep that as my highlighted line, and then I just try and keep in mind all of the other tasks, which is tricky. I quite often don't correctly remember most of the tasks, but that's fine. And just try and focus down on that. And once again, if you find that it's just going nowhere, then, you know, it's fine to ignore an objective sometimes. It's a bit of a feel bad, especially if you plan on completing an objective, but it's not like this is some failure on your part. This is just, you know, you had a look, you evaluated, and you thought, that's not going to happen, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to spend your time doing, because you don't want to, you know, spend all your time running and looking for, let's say, you spend your time and you're running and you're looking. Ooh, that was a bounty. Oh, the Vault Dwellers, thank you. You spend your time and you're, you know, really, really looking to try and find the obelisks to complete the Guardians. And then, if it, you know, I can't think of the right example. Sorry, my brain just completely died on me. But you don't want to spend all your time doing something and then decide that that actually wasn't the best course. So, you know, if partway through there's an objective that you thought was going to be completable and now you don't think it is, feel free to abandon partway through and just focus on finding loot and doing things. Because, you know, it's not the end of the world. You know, no one's going to judge you, you're just here to have a good time. And I guess that's another thing I want to quickly emphasize is, you know, you can go in with all these objectives and all these other things that you want to do and you think you should do, but please try and remember that your main objective is to have fun. Like, all of this is pointless if you're not enjoying yourself while you're doing it. So if you find yourself getting, like, stressed about not doing something or doing something wrong, like, just give yourself a minute, be kind to yourself, and remember that the most important thing is that you're having fun. And if you're not having fun at any point, then, you know, maybe take a break, maybe just stop, or just try and reevaluate how you want to run a vault versus how you are running it. Because sometimes when I feel like I'm in a bit of a rut, or I'm like, this isn't quite working for me anymore, I have a look and I think, what is it that's not working? And I go, well, you know, I've been doing the same thing for a few episodes in a row now, which means, you know, maybe 9 volts and nothing's really changed. And then I go, okay, well, let's change it then. So that's when I'll run a cake vault, or I'll put a bunch of catalysts, or I'll set myself a mini challenge or something like that. And that can be really quite helpful when I've only got like a minute left. How far am I from home? I might have to eat some fruit. I've been rabbiting on and might have got myself a little bit stuck here. But yes, what was I saying? Oh God, I was saying something that I think was vaguely making sense, and now I've completely forgotten, and I'm mildly panicking. How far am I from home? Okay, that's not home. Yes. So, yes, that was what I was saying. When you feel like everything's getting a little bit repetitive, or you're finding yourself a bit stressed by it, or anything like that, that's the moment to take a step back, stop, and I think this is next to home. Yes, let's run back. Take a step back, stop, and reevaluate. Really think, you know, what is it about it? If it's that you're just bored with the mod pack, then probably time to either give it a pause or completely stop, you know? If you're completely done with it and you don't think you're coming back, then that's it. You're kind of done. But if you think that there is something you can do in-game to change it up by using catalysts or inscriptions or anything like that, then do it. have a play. Use your expensive items, which I know is very hard to do. I never want to use my expensive items either. But, you know, if it helps bring back an exciting vault or make something interesting, then absolutely just do it. Just take that thing and think about what you want and make a change. And once again, I feel like I've blacked out and I have no idea what I've been saying this whole time. Hopefully, I covered some of the things that people wanted to hear about. And if not, let me know and I'll try and do a better job at some point. But let's have a quick look at how we actually did while I was doing that. We got 15 coin piles, 132 ores, 129 chests, and 694 mobs. I'm actually surprised that we did that well. That seems quite good, which, considering I spent the whole time in a bit of a blur trying to talk, that's good. I'm actually really happy with that. It was mostly wooden chests, because that's what we found, but that was pretty good. I'm very happy with that. Oh man, look at all that lovely, lovely loot. 10 mod boxes, a ton of ores, a jewel pouch, 14 gear pieces, and apparently at some point we got a soul mirror antique, so we also get to complete that. Plus we found 2 ashium towards our bounty and completed our dweller mob bounty, so we also get to open this. So let's see what's inside this jewel pouch. Ooh, a legendary durability. I think I will take that. And as for all of this gear, we found 1 piece of legendary gear, but it is unfortunately this axe with 42% horde damage, which is a pretty low roll on the legendary, and it's also an axe. So I don't think we will be keeping any of this gear. But once again, we have been very lucky with some of our gear recently, so that's fine. And I think I'm going to leave this episode here. And I actually had quite a good time. It was surprisingly difficult to try and stay on topic, but I think I actually did a relatively good job. I won't probably find out until I'm editing, but right now I feel like I did a pretty good job. And I guess just in case some of my key messages were a little bit garbled inside the vault, which they probably were, here are my sort of brief key takeaways. So the first is, you do not have to play the game like me. Play your own way and you will have a much better time. So definitely don't compare yourself. Comparison is the thief of all joy. So just focus on how you want to do things and go for that. And that will make everything feel a lot better. The second is that having an objective when going into the vault can actually be really helpful when focusing, whether that's you wanting to complete the actual objective or something else that you want to try and achieve. And don't be too disheartened if you don't complete an objective that you were aiming for. You'll get it next time. And sometimes the vaults do just be that way. The third is that for some aspects of the game, they're just things that you'll get a feel for in time. So whether that's what room is an ore room or whether an objective is too hard to beat. So if something feels hard for you and then you watch others and they feel like they're skating over it, don't worry, you'll get there. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. My fourth tip is always use the time as a guide, both for when to start heading back to the portal and for whether an objective is actually going to be completable or not. It is a fantastic guide, and if you're checking it, you are way less likely to get locked in the vault, which is also a plus. And my fifth and final point is have fun. And if you find yourself not having fun, take a step back and try and figure out why. If that's something that can be sorted inside the game by playing a different objective or running a ton of catalysts or anything like that, then do it. And if it's that you need to take a break, then do that as well. The game is here to bring enjoyment, so if it ever stops doing that, something needs to be changed. And I think that's it. I really do hope some of this was interesting or helpful in some way, and if there's things I glossed over or didn't really mention that you're interested in, then please do let me know in the comments, and I'll try and either reply, or if there's quite a few questions or things that people want me to talk about, maybe we'll do another one of these at some point. But for now, thank you guys for watching, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!